everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the fall campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game. Terra Mystica is always a pleasant world to visit, and we visited it last week. But this week we're back to another familiar, but much less pleasant world. It's time to start this year's fall campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game. First up, let's set the scene for the scenario.
Scenario 1, Curtain Call. You awaken with a start as though shaken by an unseen force. You must have slept for quite some time, for there are only a few other patrons in the audience and no performers on stage. The lights are dimmed and the stage curtains are tattered and ripped, though you do not remember that being the case during the first act. You wait a moment before you are sure this isn't part of the performance. As you wait, a foul but unrecognizable smell permeates the air. How long have you been asleep? Shaking off your drowsiness, you walk toward one of the seated patrons and ask for the time, but he does not respond. It is then that you realize you are speaking to a corpse.
Uh-oh, that can't possibly be anything good. So next up, let's remind everyone what the tarot reading was. On the good side, we left the Hermit 9, which increases each investigator's maximum hand size by 3. So max hand size in this case will be 11. And on the bad side, we flipped the Lover's 6. So when the game begins, each investigator searches their deck for an ally asset, removes it from the game, and shuffles their deck. So that will affect that'll affect both of them, but it'll affect them in different ways. Jacqueline will have to remove an ally from her deck. Mandy will get Shocking Discovery out of hers. And we'll see how all that works. I'll explain more about why that works that way when we actually are going to go through it. So next up, let's go ahead and take a look at opening hands. Jacqueline is going to be our lead investigator for this first scenario. So first up in her hand, we have Emergency Cash level 2. No cost to play. Gain 3 resources and draw a card. Next up we have an Open Gate, which is probably not that useful. 1 cost to play. Will and Agility on commit. Myriad Fast, play only during your turn. Attached to your location, group limit 3 in play. Investigators may move between any 2 locations with an open gate as if the locations were connected. Then we have Clairvoyance level 5, 4 cost to play, Will and 2 lore on commit. Uses 3 charges. As an action, spend 1 charge to investigate, using Will instead of lore, but you get +3 will for the investigation, and if you succeed, discover 2 additional clues at this location. If you pull an Elder Sign, a +1, or a 0 during the investigation, take 2 horror. Then we have Word of Command level 2, 2 cost to play. Name a spell card, search your deck for 1 copy of the named card and draw it, and shuffle your deck. Last up, we have Spectral Razor, 2 cost to play, will and combat on commit. Fight, adding your will to your skill value for this attack. Immediately before the attack, you may engage the attacked enemy. This attack deals +1 damage, +2 instead if the enemy is non-elite. And that'll be based on a keyword in the middle of the card. I'll point that out when it becomes relevant. Then for Mandy, we have the ally that she probably would go get if she had it on the good side, if she had Lover's 6 on the good side, and no weakness that triggered on searching her deck. Dr. Milan Christopher, sorry about my voice cracking there. Professor of Entomology, 4 cost to play, lore on commit. You get +1 lore. After you successfully investigate, gain 1 resource. While we're looking at cards here, I think there was one that was sensitive to the keyword in Jacqueline's hands. So you see how it says Ally Miskatonic here? If the enemy's elite, it'll be one of these keywords. I'll point that out when it actually pops up. Then we have a copy of Deduction level 2. 2 lore on commit. And if the skill test is successful while investigating a location, discover 1 additional clue at that location, 2 additional clues instead if you succeed by 2 or more. Then we have Hiking Boots, 2 cost to play, agility on commit. Limit 1 footwear per investigator. You get +1 agility, and as a reaction after the last clue is discovered from your location, exhaust hiking boots. Move to a connecting location with at least 1 clue, or to a connecting unrevealed location. And 2 copies of Burning the Midnight Oil. 0 cost to play, lore and agility on commit. Investigate. When the action begins, gain 2 resources. And I almost forgot to mark our starting location. Okay, now that we got that figured out. Next up, we'll go through the Act and Agenda deck. So the Act first. Agenda 1A, the third act. The theater is eerily silent. The old wooden floor creaks beneath your feet, and a light rain gently patters on the roof as you explore the auditorium. There are more rotting corpses here among the seats, and the rest of the crowd has vanished. 6 doomed to advance. Next up, our first act. Awakening. You pinch yourself to see if you're dreaming, and sure enough, your skin stings and reddens. You take a few deep breaths and try to think rationally. Whatever is going on, you must explore the theater to learn the truth of the matter. 3 per investigator, or 6 clues to advance. If I can ever get those back in the holder. There we go. Now that we got that figured out, Mandy and Jacqueline will move over to the map, so let's say we join them over there. Mandy and Jacqueline are starting over here at the theater. We'll take a look at the unrevealed side. It must have been one hell of an intermission, apparently. This flips into Shroud of 2, no clues. To say that the theater is in disarray would be a profound understatement. The walls and seats, previously polished to a shine, are cracked and caked with dirt. The curtains are tattered, and the set is stained with old blood. You aren't sure what's worse, the smell of rot or the nagging feeling that you've been asleep for a very long time. Delightful. That's everything set up, so now we're going to start a game, which means I have to remove an ally from each of their decks. So Jacqueline will actually get rid of... Let me just make sure I'm pulling that ally out. I just want to double check here. Yes. And I'm definitely glad to shuffle some of the stuff that's at the top of her deck away. I mean, there's one card I wouldn't have minded seeing, but there was a weakness on top, so I'm definitely glad to be shuffling that away. So Jacqueline is going to be removing her Arcane Initiate from the game thanks to the Lover's 6. We'll put that in the victory display. As for Mandy, because of how her weakness works, since she's searching her deck, where is it? This is a good and a bad thing for us. I'll explain why once we pull Mandy's shocking discovery. So, shocking discovery. When you search your deck and this card is among the searched cards, discard it. Cancel the search and all of its effects. Shuffle the searched deck. Draw the top card of the encounter deck. So we shuffled her deck, which actually keeps her other allies in the deck, but we get an encounter card to start the game, to start the scenario right away. So Mandy draws. Descent into Madness, Surge. If you have at least 3 horror on you, which she does not, lose an action. She froze and her throat clenched. Her eyes began to water. Her vision spiraled and blurred. Then, at long last, she finally understood. So Mandy's got to draw another card. She draws Melancholy, Revelation. Put Melancholy into your threat area. Increase the resource cost of each card in your hand by 1. Forced. At the end of your turn, test Will 3. If you succeed, discard Melancholy. That could have been worse, but I have a feeling that we're going to want to keep Jacqueline and Mandy together for a while, at least so we can try to get rid of that quickly. But now that we got all that out of the way, we're all set to start our first scenario. Jacqueline will be our first investigator, and I think her turn will take us right back down to her play area. For Action 1, Jacqueline is going to spend 4 of her resources to play out her Clairvoyance level 5. I'll get the 3 charges for that here in a minute. I think these are the charges that we want. So we've got 3 charges here. Once again, I love these brass-backed tokens from LCG Tokens. As always, linked to all the special components I use will be in the description down below. So that's her first action done. Action 2 will take us over to the map. Action 2, we're going to move Jacqueline over to the lobby. Let's see what we've got here. Through the tall glass doors leading into the lobby, you can see that this room isn't nearly as dilapidated as the auditorium. Signs promoting the King in Yellow taunt you from inside. And here we find Shroud of 4, 1 clue. Forced, when the lobby is revealed, put 2 of the set-aside lobby doorway locations into play at random. 2 actions to draw 3 cards. The wide doors that led to the streets of Arkham are somehow gone as if they were never there. Let's see, I had a bunch of set-aside stuff, so we'll put 2 of the lobby doorways into play. And they will connect to both of these. I'm probably going to have to move the map around a little bit, but... Alright, we'll put these 2 into play. I'll put 1 here. Alright. Yeah, we'll put 1 here, and I'll put another one up here. I'll get the clue for the lobby, and we'll get a pair of connecting arrows for those. And then just as a note, despite their proximity here, this lobby doorway and the balcony are not connected. I would put a connecting arrow between the 2 if they were, but I don't want there to be any confusion about that. Action 3 will bring Jacqueline down to this lobby doorway. An ornate wooden door leads into one of the front areas of the theater. Let's see what we find here. Shroud of 4, 2 clues. While you're in the lighting box, increase the resource cost of each card in your hand by 2. At the top of a narrow, claustrophobic staircase, you find the lighting crew's closest booth. Stationed above the balcony, expensive lighting equipment and several heavy spotlights dominate the cramped room. Victory 1. That might be an objective for Jacqueline next turn, assuming nothing goes haywire there. But that will do it for Jacqueline's turn. As for Mandy, first thing she's going to do is she's going to exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to draw a skill from under it, so Mandy will draw. Quick thinking. If this skill test is successful by 2 or more, after it resolves, you may immediately take an action as if it were your turn. This action does not count toward the number of actions you can take each turn. Alright, so for Action 1, Mandy will clean herself out of resources to play Milan. So we'll put him down on her ally slot. Action 2 will bring her over to the lobby. Then Action 3 will move down to the lighting box to keep her and Jacqueline together, like had been my original plan. That's the last action for Mandy's turn. At the end of her turn, she's got a test for Melancholy. She's at a will of 3. She's going to test even, but I'm going to put Jacqueline's special ability behind it. And I don't think Jacqueline's not going to commit. So we're even, but we've got Jacqueline's ability behind this. One, two, three. All right, so the first token that Mandy pulls out is a -2, which would definitely fail her. Second up, a 0, and a 0. So we'll cancel one of the zeros and the -2, which means we reveal a 0 for the test, so Mandy gets rid of melancholy. Thankfully, that was nice and quick. So that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, obviously it's the first, well, I shouldn't say obviously, I shouldn't say it's the first round of the game, because, and obviously there are no enemies in play, because we did just have to draw 2 encounter cards. Granted, that was because of Surge on Descent into Madness, but still, this is a situation where we could end up with an enemy on turn 1. And there are some scenarios that do have you end up with enemies on turn 1. But we'll go ahead and ready everything up here, including that, and then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Mandy will gain 1 resource and go up to 1. Jacqueline will draw. Shriveling level 5. Will on commit, will and 2 combat on commit. Uses 4 charges. As an action, she can spend a charge to fight, using will instead of combat, +3 will and +2 damage for the attack. But if you pull a bad symbol, take 2 horror. We'll need to get out of the lighting box before Jacqueline can use that. Mandy will draw. Research Librarian, 2 cost to play, agility on commit. Reaction, after Research Librarian enters play, search your deck for a tome asset and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. And thanks to the Lover's 6 forcing Mandy to search her deck and get Shocking Discovery out earlier, as long as we play Research Librarian before we reshuffle Mandy's deck, she actually will get a tome out of her deck. So Mythos phase, we put our first Doom up on the agenda. 1 of 6, and then Jacqueline draws. Black Star's Rise. Revelation, test lore 4. If you fail, you must either place 1 Doom on the current agenda, or take 1 horror for each point you fail by. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. It blotted out entire galaxies within its dark shape. Let's see, Jacqueline right now is down 1. Do I want to either put a Doom on the current agenda or take a horror for a point you fail by? Given that it's the first card, that should be unexhausted, but it won't be for long. I'm looking at Ancestral Knowledge. We're down 1. I think Jacqueline is just... Yeah, I think we're just gonna take it. Down 1. Do I want to throw her ability behind it? Nah, we can just put a Doom up if we have to. We'll just take this one on the chin. And we draw the tentacle, so that means we have to either put another Doom up, or we'd essentially have to take 4 horror. So that means we put another Doom up on the agenda. And then Mandy draws. Painful Reflection. Revelation, put it into play in your threat area. Forced, when you play an event, reveal a random token from the bag. If it's a bad symbol, cancel the event, take a horror, and discard Painful Reflection. Oh, fun. Mandy will then exhaust Ancestral Knowledge as we get ready to leave the Mythos phase and draw. Ooh, the Eye of Truth. Level 5. 4 question marks on commit. If the skill test is successful on a treachery, add that treachery to the victory display and attach the Eye of Truth to it. While attached, the Eye of Truth contributes its skill icons to all tests on copies of the attached treachery. I'll go through the flavor text when we actually commit it, but we're into the investigation phase now, and Jacqueline will be our first player, which will take us back over to the map. Our first order of business this round relates to the 2 clues on the lighting box. Jacqueline's first action will address that. Hopefully. So she's going to use a charge of clairvoyance, which will bring her up to 8. 8 to 4, she's up 4. Do I want to put her special ability behind this? I might as well, because she's not going to be doing too much test. I don't think she's going to be doing another test this turn. So, mostly because I want to make sure I get those clues off the location now. One, two, three. Okay. First token up for Jacqueline is a -2. Second up, another -2, and a skull, which a skull is -1, -3 instead if you have 3 or more horror on you, which Jacqueline has no horror on her. So we'll cancel 2 of the -2s. We'll cancel the 2 -2s, reveal the skull, and Jacqueline will get both of those clues. Then for action 2, she's going to move up to the lobby, where action 3, she's going to play Emergency Cash Level 2, which will give her 3 resources and draw her a card. You can never be too prepared. Well, that's what we're setting up for next turn. So Jacqueline gets another 3 resources, and she'll draw a card. She'll draw Ward of Protection Level 2. Fast, play when an investigator at any location draws a non-weakness treachery card. Cancel that card's revelation effect, then take 1 horror. Alright, so that's very welcome for Jacqueline. That will do it for her. For Mandy, she'll move up to the lobby for action 1. Action 2, she'll move up to the other lobby doorway, and we'll see what's here. She will find Theater Lounge. Forced, after you reveal the Theater Lounge, shuffle the encounter discard pile into the deck. Search the encounter deck for the 2 topmost hidden cards and secretly add both of them to your hand. Shuffle the encounter deck. Victory 1. Oh, delightful. Alright, we'll get the 2 clues for that. And we'll shuffle the discard pile into the deck. There wasn't much of a discard pile at this point anyway. So Mandy gets 2 hidden cards already. Wonderful. All right, 2 topmost hidden cards. That's not hidden. 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 Not hidden. Not hidden. Not hidden. Hidden. And hidden. Okay. We'll give this a shuffle. Okay. So that's all handled, which means the 2 hidden cards we found. The first one we found was Whispers in Your Head, Dread. Peril hidden. Revelation secretly added to your hand. You can't move more than once each turn. 2 actions to discard Whispers in Your Head, Dread from your hand. And we have a bigger problem with Whispers in Your Head, Anxiety. Revelation secretly add this to your hand. You can't trigger fast action abilities, which shuts off Ancestral Knowledge until we get rid of this for another 2 actions. Let's see, then we're going to play, then for action 3, we're going to attempt to play, Burning the Midnight Oil. So investigate. When this action begins, gain 2 resources. You'll sleep when you're dead, but because of painful reflection, we need to reveal a random token from the bag. And if we pull a bad symbol, which there aren't that many of this early in the campaign, we take a horror, cancel the event, and discard it. Does not want to focus. There we are. We pull a 0, so we get the event. So Mandy gains her 2 resources. And I'm going to commit deduction to this. Let's see, action 1 was to move, 2 revealed that, and now we're investigating. Okay. I'm also going to commit quick thinking because I'd like to get a little tempo here. So I'm going to 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm overkilling the test, but I'm trying to get a tempo jump here. So we're up 7. -2 gives her both clues and the aforementioned tempo swing because quick thinking will let me bring her back down to the lobby. So now my plan is going to be to start moving in that direction next turn. So I'm going to start working my way in this general direction, but that will do it for the investigation phase. Mandy should also have a resource from Milan. That's why Seekers love him so much and that he got hit in the very first Taboo update. By the way, as a side note, I don't play with the Taboo list, as you probably see on the channel. But minor ramble aside, that's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, still no enemies in play, so we'll reset everything here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain 1 resource and go to 6. Mandy will gain 1 and go to 5. Jacqueline draws. Arbiter of Fates. Ooh. Will, Agility, Wildcard on Commit. Jacqueline Find deck only. As a reaction, when you use Jacqueline Find's special ability, Exhaust Arbiter of Fates, this use of her ability does not count toward its limits. Mandy draws. Encyclopedia uses 5 secrets, 2 cost to play, wildcard on commit. As an action, exhaust Encyclopedia and spend a secret. Choose an investigator at your location. That investigator gets +2 to a skill of your choice until the end of this phase, and it takes up a hand slot. Mythos phase, we put our 3rd Doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. Agent of the King, pray most clues. Hunter, forced. After Agent of the King attacks you, move 1 of your clues to Agent of the King. Forced. When you defeat Agent of the King, take control of all of its clues. 1 damage, 2 sanity on attack. Great. Mandy draws. Swarm of Rats, 1/1/3 Hunter. A horde of cruel rats skitters forth in an undulating wave of claws, teeth, and mottled fur. 1 damage on attack. Delightful. Now we've got the enemies coming out. So that brings us into the investigation phase. Jacqueline will be our first player, and now we've got to deal with this Agent of the King. Unfortunately, Jacqueline is going to have to take an attack of opportunity here, which means she'll take 1 damage, 2 sanity, and move 1 of her clues to the Agent of the King, but we need to get Shriveling out on the board, which is right here. So this takes up our other arcane slot. We'll get our 4 charges for that. So we're having to, I guess we're having to slow down tempo a little bit to deal with enemies. So that was action 1 for Jacqueline. Action 2 will put a charge of Shriveling into the Agent of the King, and we'll put Jacqueline's special ability behind it. So she's going up, let's see, 3, 8. She's up 4, and we've got her ability behind it. 1, 2, 3. All right. First token that we pull, hopefully not a symbol. So of course it's the Elder Sign. Let's take a look at Jacqueline's Elder Sign. Might be a little bit hard to read here, but that font's small. I'm going to go grab her other investigator card. Here we go. It'll be a lot easier to read on this card. +1. If this effect is canceled or ignored, draw 1 card. And I want to try to ignore this if I can. Symbol 2, or token 2, is a -2 and a 0. So that's lovely, which means I get to cancel the Elder Sign and the -2. Jacqueline will get to draw a card, but more importantly, we put 3 damage on the Agent of the King. Here we go. 3 damage on the Agent of the King, and Jacqueline will draw a card. She will draw Unspeakable Oath, Bloodthirst. Oh joy. Well, this might not be too bad, actually. Campaign mode, Peril Hidden. Revelation, secretly add this card to your hand. Forced. When the game ends or you're eliminated, if this card is in your hand, you earn 2 fewer experience. And as a reaction, when you deal damage to an enemy in excess of its remaining health, discard this card from your hand. Well, we're going to try to deal damage in excess of its health because we're going to put our last charge into the Agent of the King. Once again, we're up 4, but this time we don't have Jacqueline's ability to put behind it. Fortunately, we don't need it, so we get the clue back. The Agent of the King goes to the victory display, and Unspeakable Oath Bloodthirst can happily get, well, happily for us, it can get bent. So that will move to the discard pile. That will do it for Jacqueline. Mandy's turn will similarly take us down to her play area. We probably stand more of a chance of trying to evade the rats than try to punch it, but why not? We'll try to punch it, see if we can take it out right away. So, action 1, Mandy's going to try to punch it, committing an encyclopedia to go up 1. I can try to evade it later and then have Jacqueline take it out. Skull, as we saw, is -1, so that cancels out the encyclopedia. Swarm of Rats is taken out. Whoop, I put the encyclopedia in the encounter discard pile. Whoops. Swarm of Rats can go up to that discard pile, though. Then for action 2, I'm going to have Mandy investigate... Actually, no. Actions 2 and 3, we're going to discard Whispers in Your Head Anxiety, so we can start triggering Ancestral Knowledge again, which we'll go ahead and do. So Mandy will draw a skill from that. She will draw her other copy of the Eye of Truth. Oh, that's wonderful. And then that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we took care of both of our enemies that were on the board. So we'll go ahead and start resetting everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain 1 resource and go to 4. Mandy will gain 1 and go to 6. Jacqueline will draw 1 card. The Black Book Signed in Blood. 3 cost to play. Will, Lore, Wildcard on Commit. Item Relic Tome. You get +1 Will and +1 Lore. Reaction, when you play a card, exhaust the Black Book and take X Horror. Reduce that card's cost by X. Mandy will draw another copy of Encyclopedia, so that was handy. Mythos phase, we put our 4th Doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws a Fanatic. Spawn revealed location with the most clues, which is right on top of us. Forced. After Fanatic enters play, move one clue from Fanatic's location to Fanatic. Forced. When you defeat him, take control of all of its clues. So Jacqueline will get. So since we draw him here and he doesn't have any prey, and actually, since Jacqueline drew him, he gets engaged to Jacqueline. Never mind that. So right now, our revealed location with the most clues is the lobby. Mandy draws. La Comtesse, subverter of plans. Oh, fantastic. Spawn balcony. She's a hunter. Forced. After you defeat La Comtesse, place her in your hand as a hidden card. While La Comtesse is in your hand, she gains... La Comtesse counts as 4 cards instead of 1 while checking your hand size. Forced. After you discard 1 or more cards from your hand during the upkeep phase, take 1 horror. Yikes. Well, fortunately our hand size is at 11 right now, but... And then I'm surprised she actually doesn't have elite. Right. Okay, so... Well, that kind of changed things up a little bit. We'll exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to get another skill from Mandy. She will draw. Opportunist. Commit only to a skill test you're performing. If you succeed by 3 or more, return Opportunist to your hand after this test instead of discarding it. Okay, we are at, right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, counting the hidden card in hand. But our hand size is 11 once again, so... With that, we're back into a new investigation phase, and, Jacqueline, I think it's time for a little pew-pew. Action 1 for Jacqueline, we're going to put a charge of Shriveling into the Fanatic. So she's at 8 to 3, she's up 5. I'm not going to put Jacqueline's ability behind this, because I'm planning on saving that for when I aim at La Comtesse. Of course, I need to be able to take out the Fanatic first. I'm up 5. A 0 means the Fanatic goes bye-bye and Jacqueline gets another clue, which actually made it a lot easier for us to get the clue off the lobby rather than a Shroud of 4. I just had to one-shot it with a Shriveling. Action 2, Jacqueline's going to put her last charge of Shriveling into La Comtesse. And the reason I waited to put Jacqueline's special ability behind this attack rather than using it on the Fanatic is because Friendly Fire is a thing in this game. So if Jacqueline would have missed La Comtesse, if I would have put Jacqueline's special ability behind the attack on the Fanatic, and Jacqueline hit, then I wouldn't have had it behind La Comtesse. Because if I miss against La Comtesse while it's engaged with Mandy, then Mandy takes the full force of the attack, and yeah, I'd rather not have her do that. So, even though it puts her up 7, the Friendly Fire consideration is an important one as well. One, two, three. Let's make sure I count these tokens out, right? So first token we pull is a -2. Second, a -1, and a 0. So we'll cancel the -2 and the -1. La Comtesse is... Oh, wait. This was up at the balcony. Never mind. Okay. Back all that up. So back that second action up. Jacqueline still has a charge of Shriveling. I forgot that she spawns up at the balcony. We're not in the balcony right now. So, which means Jacqueline still has her special ability. Silly me. I read she spawned at the balcony and then I put her engaged with Mandy anyway. We're still down at the lobby, so silly me. Well, we won't be there for long anyways. Jacqueline's actual action 2, now that I'm done with my derpy moment, Jacqueline's action 2 will take us over to the map. As tempting as it would be to have Jacqueline move all the way to backstage, I think I'm going to have her stop in the theater for action 2, because Lachlan Tess is going to be coming down anyway, and if both investigators are there, I can have Jacqueline engage Lachlan Tess and actually do that second attack that I was going to do properly. So Jacqueline will move to the theater, and then for action 3, I think we're going to pay 3 resources. I'm going to cheat a little bit, actually. So before Jacqueline left the lobby, I'm going to retcon slightly. I don't think I have enough open gates in the deck to justify this. So I think we're just going to move, and then for action 3, I'm going to play out Arbiter of Fates, which means this would exhaust, which means I can use Jacqueline's special ability twice now. So that's what that means. I'll grab an exhaustion token for that as well. And then that will do it for Jacqueline's turn. Mandy will spend 2 actions to discard Whispers in Your Head Dread from her hand. And then for action 3, she'll move into the theater as well. Mostly so I can have both of them together, and I can choose where I want to engage La Comtesse during the enemy phase, which happens now. And La Comtesse will go make friends with Jacqueline, who's probably going to machine gun her down during her next investigation phase anyway. Actually, we might want to try to evade her if we can. That's not going to be easy with an agility of 2. We might have a better shot of getting rid of her, of just taking her out. But I've reset everything already, so now let's move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain 1 resource, go to 2. Mandy will gain 1 and go to 7. Jacqueline will draw. Twilla Catherine Price. Oh, you are a sight for sore eyes, my dear. 3 cost to play, lore and agility on commit. Reaction, after you spend 1 or more charges from a spell asset, exhaust Twilla Catherine Price, place 1 charge on that asset. Sometimes this world. I wish I never came back. 1 health, 2 sanity on soak. Mandy will draw. I've got a plan. 3 cost to play, lore and combat on commit. Fight. This attack uses lore. You deal +1 damage for this attack for each clue you have, max of +3 damage. Mythos phase puts our 5th doom on the agenda. Jacqueline draws. The King's Edict. For each cultist enemy in play, move 1 clue from that enemy's location to that enemy. Until the end of the round, each cultist enemy in play gets +1 fight for each clue and or doom on it. If no clues are moved by this effect, the King's Edict gains Surge. No clues are being moved, so this card gains Surge. So Jacqueline draws. Black Stars Rise. Oh, fun. We saw this earlier, and Mandy has been keeping this for it. We're going to commit the Eye of Truth to the test. So that's going to give Jacqueline a +4, 7, and so that's going to bring Jacqueline up to 7, puts her up 3. And I think I'm going to put our Arbiter of Fates behind this because I want to be able to get at least 1 copy of that into the victory display. So we're up 3. 1, 2, 3. Token 1. -2. Token 2. A skull. And token 3 is a 0. So we'll cancel the skull and the -2. Reveal the 0, which means we pass. And the Eye of Truth moves to the victory display with the Eye of Truth attached to it. So anytime Black Stars Rise comes up, we get the 4 wild cards on the Eye of Truth. Mandy draws. Spires of Carcosa. Revelation, attach to your location, then place 2 doom on that location. If there's no doom on attached location, discard Spires of Carcosa. As an action, investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues here, remove 1 doom from the attached location. So we were actually going to be advancing the agenda next turn anyway, so I'm not too broken up about seeing a card like that now, or am I? Place 2 Doom on that location. No, I don't think we're that broken up about that. I was debating if I wanted to cancel that, but that's probably not that dangerous right now anyway, so we'll exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to get the last skill from out under it, Mandy will find. Another Momentum. If the skill test is successful, it's a wild card on commit. If this skill test is successful, reduce the difficulty of the next skill test you perform this phase by X, where X is the amount the skill test succeeded by, to a maximum of 3. Okay, that will bring us into the investigation phase. And I think... Decisions. I think we will have Jacqueline go first, and we'll move her down to her play area. As much as I would love to be able to bring Jacqueline's homegirl out, I don't think I have time to right now. So action 1, we're going to try to take out Lockholm Tess, and I'm going to put her special ability behind it. So once again, we're up 7, and we're drawing 3 tokens. Now that we're actually doing this properly. One, two, three. Okay. First token up. That's a +1. Next up. A -1. And -2. So we'll cancel the 2 minuses. Reveal the +1. Lockholm Tess is defeated, but remember, we have to add her to Jacqueline's hand as a hidden card. And she counts as 4 cards when we're checking during the upkeep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10. So fortunately, hand size is 11 max for this scenario, so that's gone. Then I think action 2 will take us over to the map. Action 2, Jacqueline's going to move to backstage. We'll see what we find here. This set is different from what you remember of the play's first act, decorated with a backdrop of an unsettling sunset. And here we find Shroud of 3, 1 clue. Forced. When backstage is revealed, put 2 of the set-aside backstage doorway locations into play at random. While you're at backstage, each hidden treachery in your hand counts as 3 cards instead of 1 for the purposes of counting your hand size. Yowza. So, let me just look. Counts as 4 cards instead of 1. So I don't think that would work with Lockholm Tess. So that wouldn't stack to counter as 7 cards instead of 1. That would be very, very catastrophic. So we'll get the clue out for that. And then we'll get 2 backstage doorway locations into play. 2, 3, 4. We'll give these a shuffle, and we'll do the same thing that we did with the theater lounge earlier. One here, one here. Okay. We'll put connecting arrows there as well. All right, and then we still have an action left. So action 3, I think we'll move down to this backstage doorway. We'll see what we've got here. A simple wooden door leads into the back of the theater, far from the prying eyes of patrons. And here we find dressing room, Shroud of 4, no clues. 3 actions to heal 3 horror. The cast's dressing room is filled with all manner of costumes and accessories, but it's the tattered yellow robe at the far end of the room that catches your attention. It looks too torn and disheveled to be worn, yet it is enticing all the same. Okay, so that's it for Jacqueline's turn. Mandy, we could spend her turn advancing the act, and I think that's probably our best bet right now. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Action 1, we'll move it to backstage. Action 2, where's her hand? Here it is. For action 2, She's actually going to spend 2 resources to play hiking boots. So she'll get +1 agility. And after the last clue is discovered from your location, she can exhaust it to move to a connecting location with at least 1 clue or to a connecting unrevealed location. I mostly want the agility boost off of that. That was action 2. Then action 3, we're going to attempt to play Burning the Midnight Oil. So we have to reveal the card. So we have to reveal a token from the bag. As we pull a symbol, we cancel the event, take a horror, and discard Painful Reflection. So Mandy cancels the event, which means she doesn't get Burning the Midnight Oil. So, right. That's discarded, and Mandy takes a horror. Let's see. So action 1 was to move. Action 2 played the boots. Action 3 tried to play Burning the Midnight Oil. Okay. So that does it for Mandy. That does it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we still have no enemies in play. Jacqueline took out our 1 enemy. So we'll reset everything here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource and goes to 3. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 6. Jacqueline draws. Another emergency cache level 2, so that's welcome. Let me just check her hand size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. The reason I'm counting like that is because La Comtesse counts as 4 cards instead of 1. We don't have to discard because max hand size is 11 in this scenario. Oop, wrong deck. Jacqueline will be drawing that in a second, but Mandy will be drawing Occult Lexicon level 3. 2 cost to play, 2 lore on commit. Limit 1 per deck. Reaction: when you play a copy of Bloodright, either change each 2 to a 3 or shuffle it into your deck instead of discarding it. Forced: after it enters play, search your bonded cards for 3 copies of Bloodright. Add 1 to your hand and shuffle the other 2 into your deck. Mythos phase, we are advancing the agenda. Alright, we had enough doom on there, and then when there's no doom on attached location, as there will be when we discard Spires of Carcosa. So let's see what's on the back of the agenda. The emissary's message. Abruptly, the malformed body of an unnatural nightmare slams onto the stage, its slithering tendrils reaching into the aisles. It opens its maw and lets out a shrill, piercing song. The melody is uncanny. The notes sear into your mind. Pain pounds in your forehead and blood runs from your ears. Search all set-aside cards and the victory display for the Royal Emissary enemy and spawn it into the theater. And there's a return twist that we need to get into, but first we'll go through the Royal Emissary. 442, Monster Elite. So Spectral Razor is sensitive to the Elite. This is where you'd see the keyword there. Prey at lowest will, so it's looking for Mandy. Massive Hunter Retaliate. Forced: at the end of the enemy phase, each investigator at Royal Emissary's location or a connecting location takes 1 horror. Victory 2, 2 damage on attack. So that spawns in the theater. And then the card we're attaching to it. Attach this card to Royal Emissary. It gains the following text. This card can't be detached from Royal Emissary, even if Royal Emissary leaves play. Forced: after Royal Emissary is added to the victory display, place 1 resource on this card as a warning. For each warning on this card, Royal Emissary gets +1 per investigator health, so another 2. That's going to be a big problem, and I'm actually going to grab a... I'm not going to attach resources to it. I'm going to have to think of how I want to track that, but... You know what? I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to leave it flipped, and we're going to pretend this is attached. I'm going to grab a die of some kind so I can track how many resources it has on it that way, because I don't want to be dragging that and a bunch of resources around. That sounds like a very, very easy way to make a mess here. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. So, alright, Agenda 2A, Encore. The creature's song echoes relentlessly throughout the halls of the theater. The melody repeats again and again, yet somehow never the same note twice. Forced, after Royal Emissary is added to the victory display, remove all Doom from play and reset the agenda deck to agenda 1A. Then place 3 Doom on that agenda, and we need 6 to advance. Now Jacqueline draws from the encounter deck. Now she draws Voice of Trunebra. Peril. Revelation test will 3. For each point you fail by, you must choose a different option. Either lose 2 resources, take a horror, or get -2 to the next skill test you perform this round. Let's see. Jacqueline is up 2. And I think I'm going to put Arbiter of Fates behind this. I don't know how much testing she's doing this round anyway. Okay, so, right, she's up 2, and we're going to draw 3 tokens. One, two, three. All right. First token up is a -2. Then, come on, a -1. Finally, a -2. So we'll cancel the 2 -2s, and Jacqueline passes. Mandy draws Spires of Carcosa. We saw this earlier, and we've got 2 things working in our favor this time. It's already in the victory display with the Eye of Truth attached to it, so we get 4 wild cards, and Mandy's at a lore of 6. So she... Oh, wait. No, never mind. This is Spires of Carcosa. Duh. Alright, I was looking at Black Star's Rise in the victory display, but never mind. 2 Doom on backstage. Delightful. Okay, now that I'm done being an idiot on that front, that brings us into the investigation phase, and Jacqueline's turn will take us into her play area. Action 1, Jacqueline's going to spend 3 resources to give her favorite mystic companion a big giant hug as Twilla joins the party. We went through her earlier. Action 2, we're going to play Emergency Cash to get those 3 resources back and draw a card. So Jacqueline will draw Storm of Spirits. This could be very welcome. Fight using will instead of combat. You get +2 will for this attack, and if you succeed, instead of its standard damage, deal 3 damage to each enemy at your location. Any additional damage is dealt to the attacked enemy. But if you pull a bad symbol, deal 2 damage to each investigator at your location. Then for action 3, where are you? Here we are. Jacqueline's going to spend 2 resources for Word of Command to name a spell card. Search your deck for 1 copy of the named card and draw it. Shuffle your deck. Light for the saving of our eyes. Heat for the saving of our skin. A spark for the saving of our souls. And Jacqueline's going to go find her other copy of Shriveling, I think. I'll put that to the side, but I think that's... I'm about 99% certain that Shriveling is the card I'm going to grab. It is... Okay. It's going to take me it's going to take me a turn to get that out. Right. So Shriveling is back in Jacqueline's hand, and that will do it for her turn. Mandy's turn is going to take us over to the map. We're going to try to get set up here. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a jump on taking out this Royal Emissary. So action 1, Mandy's going to investigate. She wants the clue off the location. So we're up 3 trying to get that clue. That's a skull, which as we saw earlier is -1, since she still doesn't have 3 horror on her. So she's going to get the last clue. Then she'll exhaust hiking boots to move up to this other backstage doorway. I do not want to be with the royal emissary yet. So here we'll find rehearsal room, shroud of 1, 2 clues. Forced, after you succeed by 2 or more while investigating the rehearsal room, take 1 horror. As you enter this room, silently confronting you is a giant symbol torn into the wallpaper. You can't tell whether the wall was deliberately vandalized or the material peeled away in the strange pattern on its own. Victory 1. We'll get the 2 clues for that. More importantly, we do have the 6 clues to spend to advance the act, so we will. And let's see what we've got here. All right. A shadow creeps along the wall beside you, and your heart leaps into your throat. You turn, and a figure flits away just out of sight. Either your mind is playing tricks on you, or someone else is in the theater. You follow the direction of the shadow, rounding a nearby corner. At the far end of the hall, he stands awaiting you. A man in an elegant black suit, his face covered by a pale mask. Though his attire has changed, you instantly recognize him as the actor who played the role of the stranger, one of the characters from The King in Yellow. He turns and disappears through an open doorway, as if taunting you to follow. Choose one of the set-aside locations at random. Put that location into play and spawn the set-aside Man in the Pallid Mask enemy at that location, instead of his normal spawn location. Advance to one of the 3 or 6 copies of Act 2A at random. Remove the other 2 copies of Act 2A from the game without looking at them. Alright, so let's go ahead and do setup in... Let's go ahead and do everything there. So we've got one of the set-aside locations. We've still got 2 backstage doorways and 2 lobby doorways in play. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to shuffle these up, and then we'll pull from the bottom. Okay. Let's see what we get here. We get one, actually, I'll do it this way since I'm having a little bit, since I can kind of manipulate what we're doing. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it a little bit different so since I can see what we're doing and I can manipulate it to the best situation here. So I'm going to grab one of my role-playing dice. I'm sliding the... I had to open the closet door to get my RPG dice. I want one of my D4s. Here we are. Alright, so just 1 to left, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 1, so we do get one of the lobby doorways. We'll get an arrow there, which is a problem for us because that means we're going to need to go through the royal emissary, but then we were going to need to go through him anyway. So the Man in the Pallid Mask, 434 humanoid enemy, spawn at the location farthest from all investigators, aloof. As an action, investigate. Your location gets +2 shroud for this investigation. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, defeat the Man in the Pallid Mask. Indeed, it's time. We have laid aside all disguise but you. Robert W. Chambers, the Mask, the King in Yellow. So he goes there. Alright, that was all action 1. Let's go to our set aside. Let's advance to one of our copies of Act 2A at random. We'll shuffle these up. I'll get the other locations out of the way in a second here. So that'll be our copy of 2A, and in fact I'll clear these away. Act 2A, The Stranger. The mysterious stranger from The King in Yellow might know something about what happened during the intermission. You must find and confront him if you are to discover the truth. Objective. When the Man in the Pallid Mask would be discarded from play, advance, and now we've got to run the gauntlet through the royal emissary to get to him. Fun. Alright, so action 2, we're going to set up for a confrontation with the royal emissary, as Mandy's going to play she's going to spend 2 resources for her occult lexicon. So we'll go grab one of the copies of Bloodright. Come on. I just had that drop. Let's see. Okay. Whoop. Help if I do this right. We'll give the deck a shuffle, and I'll go through the copy of Bloodright that I added to her hand once I'm ready. Okay. So that can move out of my way as well. Back in there. Alright, Bloodright. 0 cost to play, lore, will, combat on commit. Bonded to occult lexicon. Draw 2 cards, discard up to 2 cards from your hand. For each card you discard this way, either gain a resource or spend a resource to deal a damage to an enemy at your location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. And remember, we can either shuffle that into the deck if we take the 2, or change each 2 to a 3. So we do have that option available to us as well. Then for action 3, I think Mandy is going to investigate. She's up, she's at 5, at 6 to 1, she's up 5. A 0 gets her a clue, a resource, but she also takes a horror from it. Clue, a resource from Milan, but she also takes a horror going up to 2. Alright, that was Mandy's last action, so that will do it for her investigation phase. Enemy phase, the Royal Emissary moves over, and since both locations are connected, Mandy and Jacqueline each take a horror. So now we need to be careful of the skull in the bag. The skull is now a -3 for both investigators. Unless I want to put horror on allies, and I don't think I want to just yet. We're actually pretty strong on sanity. So that will do it for both of them. We'll go ahead and reset everything. Alright, that comes off as well. I'll grab another exhaustion token for Jacqueline's side. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain a resource and go to 2. Mandy will gain 1 and go to 6. Jacqueline will draw. Read the signs. 2 cost to play, will, lore on commit. Investigate plus will for the skill value for the investigation. You may ignore any effect or keyword on your location which would trigger during this investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 clue at your location. I'll check Jacqueline's hand size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11. We're still fine there. She is going to have to discard, though, if we're not careful. Then Mandy will draw. Come on. There we go. You handle this one. 0 cost to play, lore, agility on commit. Fast, play after you draw a non-peril encounter card, but before resolving that card's effects. Choose another investigator. That investigator is considered to have drawn that encounter card instead, gain a resource. Okay. Mythos phase, we go up to 1 doom in play. 3 because we go up to 1 doom on the agenda. 3 because of Spires of Carcosa. Jacqueline draws. Whispers in your head, dismay. Peril hidden. Revelation, secretly added to your hand. You can't commit skill cards to skill tests. 2 actions to discard Whispers in your head, dismay from your hand. I don't think she has any skills right now in her hand. Does she? No. But that does put her at 12 cards. If she's still there during the Mythos phase, or during the upkeep phase, she will have some problems. And then Mandy draws. Twisted His Will. If there is no doom in play, Twisted His Will gains Surge. Otherwise, test Will X, where X is the amount of doom in play. If you fail, discard 2 cards from your hand at random. Right now we're at 3 doom in play, so this would be a will 3 test. Mandy's even. I'm going to commit the Eye of Truth to this one, because especially if we start going crazy with the Spires of Carcosa, we're going to have problems with that. So Mandy's up 4 thanks to the Eye of Truth. A 0. So that puts Twisted his will in the victory display with the Eye of Truth attached to it. Which isn't great, but, well, it's actually not completely terrible, but we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. So now in the investigation phase, Jacqueline's not going to be able to get up there to help with the Royal Emissary. I think Mandy's turn will start us off at the map. If we can get through the Royal Emissary this turn, that would be ideal. So action 1 for Mandy. She's going to start off with an investigation at the rehearsal room. She's up 5 trying to get that last clue. -2 will work, so that'll get her the clue. I should have committed momentum to that, but oh well. She gets the clue, she takes a horror, and then I'll exhaust hiking boots to move down to... Oh no, I can't do that because it doesn't have a clue on it. That's unfortunate. Which means Mandy's going to be getting domed here anyway, unless I get very lucky on my draw. Well, yeah, she's going to be getting domed here, I think. Action 2, she'll move down to backstage. Action 3, she's short a clue, so I'm not going to be able to take him out anyway. Let's go for... Oh, this is bad. Yeah, I didn't really think this through at all. Well, let's go for Bloodright and start digging. So we're going to draw... I think we're going to take the... Oh no, we might be able to make this work, actually. We're going to take the... I think we're going to draw 3 cards from this one. So we'll draw 3. First card we'll find is a quick thinking. We saw this earlier. Next up, another I've Got a Plan. And Janae Beauregard, 5 cost to play, Lore and Agility on Commit, +1 of each. During your turn, after you move to a location, exhaust Janae, move a clue or a non-elite enemy from a connecting location to your location, or vice versa. 2 and 2. Then I will discard up to 3 cards from my hand. I'll discard Research Librarian, Encyclopedia, and you handle this one. To do 3 damage to the... and I'd have to spend... Actually, better idea. I'm going to keep you handle this one. Which means I'll have to spend 2 resources to do 2 damage. So that'll bring Mandy down to 4 resources. And then that will do it for Mandy. Jacqueline, for action 1, she'll move up to join Mandy at backstage. Action 2, she'll spend her resources to play Spectral Razor. So she'll be a fighting plus will, and then she may engage the attacked enemy, but it's massive, so it's already considered to be engaged with both of them, and it deals +1 damage. I'm also going to throw Jacqueline's special ability behind this attack. Okay, so that was action 1 to move up. Action 2 is the attack. So we're 7 to 4, up 3, and I'm putting Jacqueline's special ability behind this. One, two, three. Okay. Token 1 is a 0. Token 2 is a skull, which is now a -3, so I need to be careful of that. And another skull. So no surprise here. I'm canceling the 2 skulls. Royal Emissary is going to be defeated. Back to the victory display for now. But we also get our first resource on the reminder card for the Royal Emissary. So since we added Royal Emissary to the victory display, we remove all Doom from play and reset the agenda deck to 1A and place 3 Doom on the agenda, which also discards Spires of Carcosa. So that was action 1 to move up. Action 2 to Spectral Razor the thing. Action 3, I think she's just going to take a resource. Mostly since I'm planning on playing Shriveling out sooner rather than later. Although we did just buy ourselves 3 turns, and I think our next plan is probably to make a beeline for the lobby doorway with the man in the pallid mask. But that will do it for Jacqueline, that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, our only enemy right now is the man in the pallid mask. So we'll go ahead and reset everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource, goes to 2. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 5. Jacqueline draws. Ward of Protection, another Ward of Protection. So we have to discard, let me just count this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12. So we have to discard 1 card. I'm going to discard Find Gate and have Jacqueline take a Horror from that. The reason she's taking a Horror is because of La Comtesse being in her hand. I may need to get rid of her pretty soon, but I've got some time on that yet. Mandy will draw. Amnesia, oh joy. Revelation, choose and discard all but 1 card from your hand. Wait, where am I? What was I doing? So I've got to discard all but 1 card? Gross, gross, gross. So which card do I think I need the most? Of course he's elite, so Janae isn't that useful except for stat boost. I think we're going to be doing some fighting again, so I think I'm best off keeping one of my I've got a plans. So we'll discard everything else. That was delightful to pop up. Mythos phase, we put 4th Doom up on the agenda. Remember, we reset back to agenda 1A. Jacqueline draws. Twisted His Will. There's 4 Doom in play right now, so we're testing Will 4, where X is the amount of Doom in play. I think this got the excuse me. This got the Eye of Truth committed to it, and Jacqueline's a 5 anyway, so she's up 5. And I don't think we're going to put her ability behind this. I'm tempted to, but I don't think I need to, because a random discard I wouldn't mind at all here. The Elder Sign, which is of course +1, so one time I wouldn't mind passing, or I wouldn't mind failing, I pass. Mandy draws. Poltergeist, 3/2/4 Monster Geist. Can't be damaged except by spell, relic, or encounter cards. As an action, parlay. Test Lore 3 and attempts to banish the Geist. If you succeed, deal it 1 damage. Fortunately, Mandy's a 6 on that, and I've got a plan doesn't do anything to that. But that brings us into the investigation phase now, and Jacqueline, I think, is going to make a beeline for the man in the pallid mask now that the coast is clear. I should have mentioned that Jacqueline's turn was going to take us over to the map. So action 1 to the theater, action 2 to the lobby, action 3 to this lobby doorway. The man in the pallid mask will not engage because he's aloof. But we get to find out what's in this lobby doorway. Shroud of 5, 1 clue, or 2 clues. As an action, investigate. You get +3 lore for this investigation. After the skill test ends, discard each card in your hand. Whoa! So we can use that to just get rid of everything in our hand, if I don't mind that. This green room is supposed to be a relaxing lounge for tense performers, but you imagine anyone trying to find a moment's rest in this cluttered pigsty would come up shortchanged. Victory 1. So that could end up being very helpful. A +3 would bring Jacqueline up 1. Trying to do a little bit of setup here. If I can get Shriveling out first, I actually wouldn't mind that. So that's definitely food for thought, but that's also the end of Jacqueline's turn. Mandy's going to bring us down to her play area. Time to see if Mandy can talk a ghost out of existence. Action 1, she's going to parlay with it. She's up 3. +1 deals it a damage. Action 2, she'll do it again. Action 2 will make it go bye-bye. And then Action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, Mandy will move over to the theater. I don't want her to still be there when the agenda advances again. But that should work for the time being, so that'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the man in the pallid mask is still aloof. So we'll go ahead and reset everything. I never flipped Jacqueline's action markers over because her turn was literally just move from one end of the map to the other. But we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline gains 1 resource, goes to 3. Mandy gains 1 and goes to 6. Jacqueline draws. Enchanted Bow, 3 cost to play, Will and Agility on commit. Uses 3 charges. Action, exhaust Enchanted Bow to fight, using either Will or Agility instead of combat and get +1 skill value for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. As an additional cost to initiate this ability, you may spend 1 charge to have this attack target a non-elite enemy at a connecting location. If you do, ignore Aloof and Retaliate. Takes both hands and an arcane slot, which we actually think we have to discard something. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. So I'm actually going to bin the Enchanted Bow because I can't use that on the man in the pallid mask. Which means Jacqueline takes another horror. And then Mandy draws. Eureka. Will, Lore, Agility on commit. If this skill test is successful, the investigator performing the test searches the top 3 cards of their three cards of their deck for a card, draws it, and shuffles their deck. That could be handy. Mythos phase, 5th doom on the agenda. Hopefully our best laid plans aren't going to get laid to waste here, so Jacqueline draws. Spirit's Torment. Attached to your location on a revelation. Forced. After you leave attached location, you must either take a horror or lose an action. As an action, place one of your clues on attached location to discard Spirit's Torment. And then Mandy draws. Descend into Madness. Surge. Revelation, if you have at least 3 horror on you, lose 1 action. We saw this earlier, and it didn't affect Mandy then, but it does now. So she loses an action. And then Mandy surges that into Whispers in your head, Peril, with Doubt. Peril hidden, secretly add Whispers in your head, Doubt to your hand. You can't play events. 2 actions to discard Whispers in your head, Doubt from your hand. So that didn't screw up our plans too badly, but we're probably just still doing fine. But a new investigation phase will also bring a new battery, and when we're back, we'll be down in Jacqueline's play area. I think this worked out. So for action 1, Jacqueline will clean herself out of resources to play out a clean copy of Shriveling. We saw this earlier. I'm not going to bother going through it again. We'll get our 4 resources, or our 4 charges for it. 3, 4. Then action 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. We're actually not in danger of discarding, of having to take another horror from that. So, there is an option to try to take out the Man in the Pallid Mask now. Which doesn't feel like a completely terrible idea at all, especially since I'm not in danger of... Since I'm not in danger at all of... Since I'm not in danger of having to discard anything, let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Yep, okay, so we're fine there. So I think Jacqueline will try to take out the Man in the Pallid Mask. Action 2, she'll engage. Since he's aloof, she'll have to. Then action 3, I'm going to put a charge of Shriveling into... Actually, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to put a charge of Shriveling into him, but then I'm going to exhaust Twila. I'm going to A, exhaust Twila, and B, exhaust Arbiter of Fates, so I can use Jacqueline's special ability. So that puts Jacqueline up 8 to 4. She's up 4. And 1, 2, 3. First token up. +1. Second. -2. And... That's a well-loved -1. So we'll cancel the -2 and the -1 for a +1. So Jacqueline does 3 damage, which means the Man in the Pallid Mask would be getting discarded from play, but now we have to advance. Under the city, as you face off with the stranger, you get the sense that... As you face off with the stranger, you get the sense that... Come on. He is grinning beneath his pale, faceless mask. Where is everyone, you ask, but he does not respond. What is going on? He remains silent and steps back as you approach, until his back is against the corner of the room. The ground shakes, and you hear an uproarious collapse from above as vines, tree roots, and alien overgrowth tear into the ceiling of the room. You turn back to the stranger, but he is gone. Instead of discarding the Man in the Pallid Mask, move him to the lobby. Add a cultist and an elder thing to the chaos bag. Place a horror on the balcony. Until the end of the scenario, horror on locations represents entangling overgrowth, and each location with horror gains forced. After you leave this location, test Will 4. If you fail, discard an item or ally asset you control. If you can't, take 2 damage instead. Keep this card next to the Act deck as a reminder, and advance to Act 3A. So we'll move the Man in the Pallid Mask to the lobby. Then I need a cultist and an elder thing for the bag. Trying to find the tokens off camera. Here we go. And of course they were toward the bottom of the bag. Cultist and elder thing going in. Okay, let me put these rest of these tokens back in the set-aside bag I had for them. Okay, right, horror on the balcony, which is right here. Okay, so we'll keep that next to the Act deck. All right, so now we advance to Act 3A. Curtain call. The stranger must know the way out. You have to follow him. While the Man in the Pallid Mask is not in play, the lobby gains as an action resign. Forced. At the end of the round, place 1 horror on each location with no horror that is connected to a location with horror. Objective. Each undefeated investigator has resigned. Advance. Alright, so the man in the pallid mask is back in the lobby. Do I care about the victory points now on the location? I don't think I completely do. So, I think the only way I'd worry about that is if, with the Royal Emissary coming back this turn, it might actually be worth trying to get those victory points if I can. No. I'm trying to think about this, because what I'm thinking about here is, do I take the one from the... do I go for the one from the green room, or do I think I'm going to have an easier time getting two when the Royal Emissary comes back? Because he's coming back from in the Mythos phase. Jacqueline will need at least 2 actions to take him out. One, and then 1 to resign. So I can probably make this work. Yeah, I think I'm going to risk it. I think Jacqueline's action 3 will take her over to the map. All of that hemming and hawing that I did with Jacqueline ultimately led to action 3, moving over to the lobby, and she's going to take a horror from leaving the location. From leaving Spirit's Torment. So that will do it for Jacqueline. Mandy's turn is going to move 1 to the lobby. She's only got 2 actions left, that's right, so she can't do this anyway. So she can't discard Whispers in Your Head Doubt anyway. Actually, I could investigate there. Yeah, we'll investigate on the man in the pallid mask. So he's got a special investigation ability where your location gets +2 Shroud for the investigation. So that brings her up to even. I'll use Eureka to put her up 1. Does Jacqueline have anything she wants to commit? She's actually going to commit the Black Book here to put Mandy up 3. And I'm going to put Jacqueline's special ability behind this, because this could potentially save me an action, because I just realized that Jacqueline's actually fresh out of resources. So, okay, let me think this through. Let me just map this out again. So I'm at a 6 right now, which is even with the man in the pallid mask's investigation. Eureka puts her up 1. The Black Book from Jacqueline puts her up 3, and I'm using Jacqueline's special ability. Okay, got that all set. Just had to kind of talk it out a little bit in my head, make sure I had everything straight. One, two, three. Okay. Token 1 is a -2. Token 2, another -2, and a +1, so I'll cancel the 2 +2s. And the man in the pallid mask has been defeated. He'll go into the discard pile for now. I'm sure that won't last. I'm getting slightly spoilerific there, just because I know a bit about what's coming in the campaign. Alright, so that's gone. And Mandy searches the top 3 cards of her deck for a card. I'm actually going to take 2 targets from this search. So card 1 is Occult Evidence. When I search my deck and it's among the cards, I can reveal it to draw it and discover a clue at my location, which I don't have a clue here, but action 2. Dream Diary, Dreams of an Explorer. 2 cost to play, Will and Agility on Commit. When I'm at a location with at least 4 Shroud, Essence of the Dream gains 2 more question marks. When my turn begins, search my bonded cards for Essence of the Dream and add it to my hand. And survey the area. While it's in my hand or committed to a test, it gains lore icons equal to my agility, which is 3, and agility equal to my lore, which is 6. So I get to draw Occult Evidence and discover a clue, but there's no clue to discover. So I guess I just take everything from the search then. Since that triggered anyway, I get to take these 2 as well. That seems a little broken, but when I use her free ability like that, it seems like it's just an Occult Evidence is among the cards. Seems like it's just a free draw 3 cards. Somebody will probably correct me in the comments section if I'm wrong about that, and I'm curious to know if it just works that way, but for now, that's how I'm going to rule it. Alright, so that was action 1 was to move over to the theater. Action 2 was investigating the man in the pallid mask. Action 3, I don't know if we have an action 3 right now, truthfully. Oh no, we didn't have an action this turn. Never mind, I forgot she lost an action from Descend into Madness. So that's it for Mandy's turn on the investigation phase. Enemy phase, no enemies in play thanks to Mandy's handiwork. And actually, till the end of the scenario, at the end of the round. Okay, so that came in during this Mythos phase, so we're fine there. Alright, so we've got that all straight. That will bring... Okay, so now we're resetting everything. I had to figure out what I was doing for a second there. And that will bring us back up top for the upkeep phase. Jacqueline will gain a resource and go to 1. Mandy will gain 1 and go to 7. Jacqueline will draw. Another word of command. We saw this earlier to get her second copy of Shriveling. Mandy will draw. Pathfinder, 3 cost to play, agility on commit. During your turn, if you're not engaged with any enemies, exhaust Pathfinder to move to a connecting location. And I think we're all fine on discarding. Let me just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Jacqueline, I think we established was fine as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. All right, Mythos phase brings the emissary back out. This time he's coming back out with 6 health, and he spawns in the theater. So we do have an option to go get him if we want to, but we're probably not going to. Let's see what we draw here. So Jacqueline draws Black Star's Rise, which now has the Eye of Truth committed to it. So 7 to 3, that should have been, those two should have been exhausted or unexhausted as well. So Black Star's Rise is a... I'm going to exhaust Arbiter of Fates. Jacqueline is up 4. Right? Yes. Up 4. Up 3. I can't do math today. And I'm putting her ability behind it. One, two, three. All right, first token we find. A skull, which is now a -3, so I do need to be careful. Another skull, good grief. And a 0, so we get saved. So saved by the 0. We'll cancel the 2 skulls, reveal the 0, and Jacqueline's clear on Black Star's Rise. Mandy. Voice of Trinebra. Peril. Revelation, test Will 3. For each point you fail by, you must choose a different option. Lose 2 resources, take a horror, get -2 to the next skill test you perform this round. I don't think I'm too broken up by that, actually. So we're just going to test it even. The reason I'm not too broken up about this is I think the scenario is just over at this point. A -1. So Mandy only has to choose one option. She'll lose a resource. And hey, look at that. We're all clear of that, so that'll bring us back into the investigation phase. And I expect this to be a very short investigation phase. Jacqueline's turn will take us over to the map. Oh, at the end of the round, I should have put a horror on the lobby and the theater. So now, in the investigation phase, Jacqueline's turn will take us over to the map. We're probably going to set a record here for one of the shortest investigation phases ever. Toodles and toodles. Let's move back up top for this to resolve this at the end of the scenario. We do need to read the act. I usually do that before we move back up top, but this might actually be a little bit easier to just move back up top when I know that I'm pretty sure the scenario is over at this point, but let's find out. Escaping the theater. The stranger gives you a slight bow as he steps through the lobby's front entrance, opening a glass door that was not there a moment before. A sudden cacophony of noise erupts around you, and you fear that the building has only seconds before it's destroyed. You flee, crashing through the front doors and leaving the ruined theater in your wake. Several blocks away, you take a moment to rest and think about what you've witnessed. The investigators must decide. Choose one. We have to warn the police about what's going on. R1. The police won't believe us. We have to solve this mystery on our own. R2. Let's warn the police. So we need to find resolution 1, which I'm going to turn back to my handy-dandy little phone to do. Okay, here we go. Resolution 1.
Resolution 1. Fleeing from the theater, you head straight to the police station in Easttown. Bursting through the door, to the stares of onlookers and police officers alike, you demand to see Sheriff Engel, stressing the importance of your visit. The desk sergeant, who is lazily working through a stack of paperwork, shakes his head and raises a finger in silence, then points to a nearby chair. The wait is excruciating. Every moment is an eternity. The hands of the nearby clock crawl. You drum your fingers on the desk. You tap your feet. You constantly peer over your shoulder to make sure the man in the pallid mask of the stranger is not watching you through the front window. Finally, the desk sergeant puts his pen down and sits up, beckoning you. All right, what's so important now? You're only halfway through your explanation of the night's events when he sighs and shakes his head. Look, if this is some kind of joke, it ain't funny, he says. We had officers downtown all night. Don't try to feed me some hooey straight to my face. You insist, but the desk sergeant rises to his feet and opens the door, motioning for you to leave. He raises his voice. What, you think we're not busy enough or something? Beat it. He mumbles about blind birds behind your back as he escorts you out of the station. You know what you saw earlier that night. Frustrated, you head back to the Ward Theater to find some kind of proof you can take to the police. You are surprised to find that the front door of the theater is locked. You're about to decide whether or not to break down the door when you see a notice on the wall near the entrance. Don't be a wet blanket. Come to the King in Yellow cast party, 8 p.m. at the home of Constance Dumaine, 1452 Atlantic Avenue. Formal dress only. You tear the notice from the wall and fold it into your coat pocket, hoping it will lead you to the answers you seek. Did you really think the police would help you? In your campaign log, record that you tried to warn the police. Mark one conviction in your campaign log. If you stole from the box office, record in your campaign log. The police are suspicious of you.
Before we move on to the next bullet point, I will note that we did not steal from the lobby. Proceed.
In your campaign log, record that the stranger is onto you. Add the man in the pallid mask weakness to the lead investigator's deck. Does not count towards deck size. For the remainder of this campaign, anytime the bearer of the man in the pallid mask leaves the campaign for any reason, choose a new investigator to become the bearer of the man in the pallid mask weakness and add it to that investigator's deck.
As I was playing the resolution, I was trying to make some notes of what all happened in the campaign log. I've already added the man in the pallid mask to Jacqueline's discard pile. Continue.
In your campaign log, under Chasing the Stranger, place 2 tally marks. For the remainder of the campaign, keep a running tally of the number of times the man in the pallid mask is defeated during a game. Each tally will bring you one step closer to the truth. Each investigator earns experience equal to the Victory X value of each card in the victory display.
Which turned out to be 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Agent of the King. So we have a total of 4 experience to spend in before the next scenario. And I expect we'll have the first upgrades video probably later this afternoon, but don't quote me on that. So that will do it for this first scenario of the fall campaign. Like I said, upgrades probably later this afternoon, Monday at the latest. Monday is going to also be a fairly busy day on the channel. I'm expecting at least 1 game video on the channel, possibly more, so stay tuned to the channel for that. Wednesday we're starting our background campaign of Anne's End Legacy, and next week the fall campaign continues with the second scenario, Return to the Last King. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.